Sorry.
I think you did.
Okay.
Let me just check again. But last I checked, you did. Yes. The last thing I see is defensive line struggles, run defense as a unit with the rankings.
Yep. And then I could just read off the pass defense. And then would you be able to talk about how that is like across the league? Like if I just say,
you want
like,
me to cue you up?
If I read the statistics out, would you be able to say like that's like not great, or like how you think?
I don't have the information in front of me, so I wouldn't know. No, unless you're,
Gotcha.
I could cue if you had the information and you were just asking me to cue you up. I could, but no,
I mean, I have the Eagles information. I just don't have.
Right.
I mean, I guess I could pull up everybody's too.
Let's try to make it to that far. I'm gonna make sure I
let's just
move a little quicker on this. So
we'll just roll. Let's just roll. We'll be all right.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome to another Inside the Data on Inside the Birds. I'm Geoff Mosher, and of course, with us, as always, is our data and analytics expert, Sam Finkel. Sam, the last time we did a show, the Eagles were 4-0. They have since played 2 games and lost both, including a loss that I did not have on my 2025 Eagles bingo card, a 17-point defeat to a Giants team that didn't have Malik Neighbors. Let's go deep inside the numbers here to see what everything is revealed, because I'm sure you are surprised to be doing this show with me talking about 2 Eagles losses.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we originally talked about doing the 2-1, I thought it would be no big deal, you know. We'd be talking, maybe might have lost the 1, but
right.
2 is certainly surprising. So, and there's a lot of things we can talk about for sure.
Good. I'm sure the analytics and the data give us some kind of story of why the Eagles are suddenly looking like a very mediocre, if not bad, team over the last 2. I mean, you lose to a 1-win Giants team. Things are not going well for you. I think that's pretty fair to say.
No doubt.
All right, like we always do, we'll get right inside the charts. Oh, wrong chart. 3. Let me remove that and then get the right one up. Good thing there's an editing button on this. What is going on here? It's like not doing what it normally does. Share screen. Inside the data. All right, now normal. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we got the chart up here. And the first thing we're going to look at is just a quick by the numbers, basic stats against the Broncos. I think what stands out here is, I think we alluded to this last game or last episode, Sam, is that even when the Eagles were 4-0, they were getting outgained total yards in every single game. Well, guess what? It happened again.
Yeah, and another thing we talked about is a lot of the ways that they won was not repeatable.
Right.
And I think these are perfect examples of why it wasn't repeatable.
Absolutely. There was no field goal to block in this one in return for a touchdown to win. But the big one to me is the yellow box, because in all 4 of the Eagles' first 4 wins, they won the turnover battle and produced at least, obviously, 1 turnover. And what we'll see in this repetitive theme here of the last 2 games is a big goose egg in that column.
Absolutely.
And by the way, the Broncos having 121 yards in penalties and still, coming back from the deficit that they came down, 14 points is not a good look for the Eagles there.
And quite frankly, they probably should have had more penalty yards. I'm sure the average Eagles fan would think that as well.
Right.
And the fact that they were still able to persevere even with that many penalties is quite a story in and of itself.
Yes. And one other thing, I don't think you might have added it just for this episode intentionally, or if it was in the past basic stats, I don't remember, but the average starting field position for the Eagles once again kills them at 21.1. I mean, they are doing everything in their power to either muff, botch, mishandle a kickoff, or do something, or even a punt return. I think in this game against the Broncos, Jahan Dotson was fair catching punts inside the 5.
Yeah. That statistic I added, I think, last episode for the first time, because I think we talked about it in like the first couple episodes. And I think it's a really important stat because it does contribute significantly to, wins, because it's one of the key components to a win is putting yourself in a position to score. So,
right. And then, of course, one thing we always harp on was the very lopsided time of possession. The Broncos controlled the ball for almost 10 more minutes than the Eagles in that game.
Absolutely.
So as we go on to the Giants game, not time of possession, not as bad, obviously, but turnovers just killer. The Eagles turned the ball over twice. The
Hurts threw his
Giants,
first interception of the
yep,
season.
yep, and that came at a terrible, terrible time. And the Giants don't. So here's a clear indicator analytically, right? When the Eagles win the turnover battle, they win the game, and their first 4 wins were all by 1 possession. So you can see how important those takeaways are. You go 2 games without one, you lose both.
Yeah, and then you look at the average starting field position, and they really shot themselves in the foot.
Really bad. Absolutely. Man, the Giants, boy, did they have great field. I mean, you gave a team, right? The Giants who had no Malik Neighbors, no Darius Slayton, starting a rookie quarterback. Tracy was able to play, but there was really just Cam Scadaboo as the running back, another rookie. And, just not an overall great offense. And you allowed them to start at the 35.5 on average.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And of course that's skewed partially because of the interception and there are other
Right.
some
True.
things but on average, I mean, it does, it puts them in a position to score.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm really glad you mentioned the average starting field position because I did pull some more stats on average starting field position because the Eagles are the second worst in the NFL in average starting field position. They are averaging their own 27.2. Last year, just for comparison, they were 6th in the NFL, 6th best in the NFL at 31.7. But as everyone recalls, the kicking rules changed, which has some impact. But just so you know, the league average is around 30.4, and last year it was about 30.1. So it hasn't really affected them that much. But the Eagles have gone from starting on average, the 31.7 to the 27.2.
And what does that rank again?
So it's second worst in the NFL this year, and it was 6th best last year.
Well, that is a precipitous drop, my friend. Good stuff. Good stuff. Again, if you lose 2 in a row compared to winning 4 in a row, there's going to be certain things that are not even as, I mean, everybody's talking about the pass offense, SaquonBarkley not running the ball, but things like time of possession, turnovers, and field position. Starting field position was obviously huge, as you said, to the Eagles offense last year, because really, if you start off at the 31, 32, like they're averaging, and you get one big run or one big pass, which the Eagles were a big play team last year, you're already in field goal range. I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, with the kick rules changing, it should be in the favor of getting greater field position. So I think that this is even worse. I think it's even more prominent because it's decreased so much, even when the rules have changed to make it somewhat easier.
Oh, and by the way, he gave up 2 picks for Tank Bigsby, who is supposed to be good at that with these new rules. And first thing he does and gets the Giants is botch a punt return, or not only botch it, but then take it out of the end zone instead of taking a knee and then really putting the Eagles deep in their own territory. That was just boneheaded.
Absolutely.
All right, let's look at the advanced stats. This is the really good, juicy data, and I love what you got here. Again, we have what the Eagles average on the season, and then what they averaged individually in these advanced offensive data stats, both against Denver and against the Giants. And I don't think it takes rocket scientists, Sam, as you color-coded this so well, to realize there's a big whole lot of red blocks in that EPA area for play, pass, and rush against the Giants, man. That's bad.
Yeah, it was the worst version of the Eagles offense that we've seen this year. And honestly, it hasn't looked particularly great all year. So that's really saying something.
Right. And it was pretty, obviously against Denver, they were right around where they're at for the year for per play. A little bit better passing game because you remember they were able to throw the ball a little bit there for a while. But once again, the rushing game really failed them. And to your point, it was 0.00 on season average, so not great to begin with.
Yeah, so
for them especially.
I believe this is the first time that we're looking at this chart where the Eagles have a negative EPA per play.
Wow, for the season.
For the season, yeah. If I recall, they were either right at 0 or they were on the positive side on every other episode we've had so far.
Right.
So these bad games are really stacking up and starting to affect the season average.
Now, I love that you a couple of weeks ago sort of invented this sort of stat about taking the difference between time to throw and then time to be pressured, and then taking the difference there to see what it comes up with, because it tells a better story than just one individually. And the one that really jumps out is, obviously for the season, the minus 0.18 is their average. which is good for them. You want to be in the negative. Or, no, that's not. Let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
let me backtrack on that. You want to be in the positive, right? But you want to have more time to throw than obviously the pressure. The giant one, where what it basically says is Hurts had 3.42 seconds to throw, which is a pretty long time in the NFL, and he was pressured, but he was being pressured at 3.16. Is that seconds?
So it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So
Okay.
on average, they are similar stats in that they both measure time, but time to throw is how long it takes on average for the quarterback to throw the ball, when
Right.
time to pressure is how long on average it takes to be pressured. So there obviously can be overlap, right?
Right.
So what it's saying is that Hurts held the ball while he was being pressured. A negative number means you are getting pressured on average by delivering the ball. A positive number means you're pretty clean on average.
Mm-hmm. So minus 2.6, I would imagine, is a pretty incriminating number. Like, you don't want to be in that territory. If you're minus 1 or 0.05 or something, you're probably okay. But you want to be in the plus. But minus 2.6 or minus 0.26 seems pretty bad.
Yeah, it was, I believe, the worst that they've had this season. Hurts, it's almost indicative of, and it's fun to say because, and we're facing potentially Carson Wentz next week,
Right.
that it's hero ball, right? That this is the stat to track hero ball, right?
Right.
If you're holding the ball for that long, for a quarter of a second longer than it is to be pressured, I mean, that you are trying too hard to make plays when there should have been easy answers, whether in the scheme or just you're just missing things.
Right.
That's what I would say for that.
And what I forgot when I was trying to introduce the idea of this stat, I forgot to kind of also add the quarterback pressure rate into this, because the Giants only pressured Hurts at 18.4%, correct?
Yes.
So for him to only be pressured at 18.4% and have the ball, be able to throw it within 3.42 seconds and not the offense not be better, just shows you that there's something wrong there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the statistic is only a symptom, and it doesn't really diagnose what the problem is.
I like that.
We're going to have to talk a lot more in depth about that, but it does show there is a problem clearly.
Yeah. And same thing with the Broncos, where he took 6 sacks. 2 of them were not, just so we can tell the full story, 2 of them were not pass rush sacks. He actually sort of ran out of a clean pocket, I thought, and then ran out of bounds. And I think he didn't realize both times that he was short of the line of scrimmage, because otherwise you could have just thrown the ball out of bounds. There were receivers there, but he wound up taking 2 quote unquote sacks because of it. Nobody hit him or anything like that. They give it to the closest defender, but the other 4 were legit sacks.
Yeah. And the thing is that's interesting is that's where I think this is the first time in the season, actually I know it is, where the net time before pressure is actually positive.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what it means is he has clean pockets. He just threw the ball faster than the pressure got there, which is good. But then you see 6 sacks and you're like, how does that even compute? And I'm glad you provided that context, because that explains it partially.
Right. In both games, both losses, he had a better time to throw than the season average. And in one of the games, he had a very, very low pressure rate by the Giants. So that's not good. Like, that's where they say, like, the data doesn't match the expectation, right? Because you'd normally think if you have a nice clean pocket and time to throw, you're going to have better passing stats.
Yeah, and the thing is, I actually think the time to throw is pretty interesting there, because it's just saying that he's taking longer to throw in both of these losses.
Right.
And when you're right, the pressure, it's not coming as fast as it was on average for the season.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think it underscores exactly what you're saying. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I'll add another qualifier that I think is important for this. The time to throw can sometimes be skewed by Jalen running around quite a bit and creating. He has not ran in either of these 2 games as significantly as he's run in the past. So these are really more, I think, pocket stats than they are skewed stats by his running.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Or not, I shouldn't say running, because once he runs, it becomes a run. But like when he's back there eluding and buying time is the word I was looking for. So we focus on average separation, specifically with AJ Brown last episode, and weird. So against the Broncos, worse separation. I think, Sam, that makes sense because of the personnel the Broncos have on defense, especially in the secondary.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense the separation is lower than average, and it would also make sense the separation is higher than average against the Giants, who don't have as good of a secondary.
So again, this is when the target is thrown too.
Right.
So like I think it's really interesting that even with more separation, they just weren't able to find the successes, particularly against the Giants.
Yes, agreed. And so take the big Devontae Smith catch over the middle, I think for 24 yards against the Broncos. There was not a lot of separation on that. It was a really nice lead throw by JalenHurts, but that goes to show you a lot of the passes Hurts completed against the Broncos that, when the pass offense did look good for a little bit, he was making some pretty good throws there. He was leading guys, he was putting it where it had to be, and then things kind of fell apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
The SaquonBarkley discussion here. The run success, not good against Denver. You got the big old red mark there of 27.3%. Better against the Giants, but kind of again skewed, right? Because he didn't have that many carries. I think he was 10 for 60? No, he was 10 for 60 at halftime. Didn't see too many carries in the second half. So it's almost skewed by the first 2 or 3 runs that he had that were good.
Right. I know he had the big run to start the game too.
Yeah, 18 yards and then a 13-yarder right after it. So he had half of his entire first half total on the first 2 runs.
It looks like he was 12 for 58.
Yeah. After that was his final.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he was 10 for 60 at halftime. So he was literally 2 for -2 in the second half.
Yeah. Not ideal, of course.
No, not good. And,
it shows up in that stuff percentage. I mean,
I was about to say it sure shows up. Right. Oh man. So here, how about this? The Broncos didn't stack the box at all.
I was really hoping you would talk about that. That is the most interesting thing for me. I think, look, people say like the blueprint is out on the Eagles, but they lost both these games in somewhat different ways. And I think that's interesting. Like I know that was a big thing that was trending, and people were saying the Eagles are found out, and this is how you beat them. But it's a little concerning that there's multiple ways. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, there are multiple ways to win football games, but not stacking the box against Saquon, I think shows that there's just not fear in that unit. And I'm talking about the offensive line. I'm talking about the runner. The Denver did not fear them.
No, but they sort of played it down the middle, right? Because it's not like they had a lot of light boxes at just 18.2. Right. So they played a lot of 7-man boxes. I think they were in nickel quite a bit and would bring a safety down while the nickel was in coverage, or they sim pressured a lot in the second. But those are really passing stats. But they sort of played. They didn't leave it completely light, but they certainly didn't bring in anybody extra as artillery against the run.
Yeah.
Whereas the Giants did a little bit more of that.
Right. And I think this is like the perfect time to kind of shout out your article that you wrote about them. It was an incredible article, as always, obviously. But the one where you were talking about, their blitzing in the first half, and then they really didn't in the second half. And I think that also goes into run defense too. They were giving these looks, yet still not stacking the box, but they were still pressure-esque looks.
Yes. I think more so in the Broncos game, I suspect, and I would love to just have a sit-down conversation with Todd Bowles, and then also not Todd Bowles, I'm sorry, the Broncos game with Vance Joseph, yes. And then also with Bowen from the Giants. But I would really say to Vance, I'm like, they were working that RPO game. Were you trying to get them to continue it by doing what you were doing and then dropping everybody at the last second? Because that seems like it was planned. And not only that, was that your whole plan going into the game to blitz, give up a few if you had to, take the shot early, but then totally confuse the offense in the second half?
Yeah,
be fascinating to know. Maybe I'll catch up with them at the combine. All these guys, if you catch up with these guys at the combine after the season's over, they're very willing to talk about like things that they did during the season. Some of them are,
particularly the ones that make them look kind of like geniuses.
Absolutely. I can already. I have to figure out a way to ask the question without leading him. So he's like, "Yes, that was my plan, and it worked well. Good point. Good observation." As opposed to now, just throwing stuff against the wall. All right, the JalenHurts spray chart here. This one's against Denver. All right, you have a stat here that's phenomenal. Jalen Hurts attempted 9 deep passes of 20 plus or more yards. Second most of his career. Ordinarily, you would see that and say bombs away, but this is where Jalen Hurts and the offense thrives. He completes just 2 of them. Now, he still gets 99 yards on a touchdown, but honestly, 99 yards when you're throwing 9 deep passes is probably not. You want way more than 99 yards out of that.
Of course. Yeah, you would hope.
Does this stat to you really show probably more than anything just how out of whack the Eagles pass game is? Because now you're taking Hurts' strength. And on a day where he was fairly good throwing the football, but not in his specialty, not down the field deep.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. They're out of sync. There's a lot of issues, but execution wise, no one seems to be on the same page.
Right.
Maybe Dallas Goedert. But
that's really it. Yeah. He has 5 touchdown catches. Nobody else has more than 1. I mean, yeah. I did not have that one on my bingo card either, going into 2025.
Well, particularly because we weren't even sure if he would be on the roster.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So Hurts had a plus 2.4 completion percentage over expectation against the Broncos. I know he led the NFL in this category last year.
Yes.
Do you remember what the number was?
That's good. I don't know off the top of my head.
Roundabout. I mean, it was
like I think it was.
I thought it was like in the double digits. Was it?
It was like 11%.
Yeah. So even being only plus 2.4 is as good as that is. That's still low for him.
It is low for him. But honestly, I've always found this stat to be more of a complimentary stat and not just for Hurts. I think it speaks to his receivers as well because it takes 2 to make a catch happen. And one of the reasons Hurts is really good at it is because Hurts delivers a good ball. But in particular, I mean, these receivers make great catches. Like that's a huge, in my opinion, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, fair enough. And by the way, were you really about to catch yourself saying it takes 2 to make a thing go right? It feels like you wanted to. Once you said it takes 2 to, I felt like a little stutter there, and I thought maybe you were going that direction.
I was not, but I should.
All right.
Honestly, it was better. It would have been better than what I was thinking. And I was wrong. It was 6.6% actually.
Oh, okay, but still off. I mean, when you're at plus 2 instead of plus 6,
yes,
a little bit lower than normal.
Absolutely. But I just want to make sure I gave the right information.
Fair enough. Now against the Giants again. God, this is what's so strange. It's like, you look at 24 for 33, 283. Yes, there was an interception, but again, a positive completion over expectation. And you think that should reflect at least a decent offensive game, not the kind of one that the Eagles had.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, before you go into the zone and man part of it, I just that the whole thing is that Hurts excels against man, right? That's what we've seen historically, and it's just so interesting that it was just not the case in this game at all.
Right. So after I wrote that wonderful article that you mentioned about Hurts killing the blitz, killing man coverage, struggling against zone, this is why football is such an unbelievable sport and so unpredictable. Against the Giants, Hurts he slays it against zone. 18 for 21, 86% completion percentage, which is like, and by the way, part of that is just the Giants don't have great defense, but still plus almost 11 CPOE. And then tell the folks, Sam, what he did against man coverage.
50%, 6 for 12.
50%.
Look, but he did have his 1 touchdown, but he also had his 1 interception. So very mixed bag, I would say.
But look at the CPOE, man, minus 10. You couldn't get more extreme with the completion percentage over expectation for each zone and man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is completely, as you did in one of your other articles, Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, that is literally, although I believe you were talking more about their half performances and how they were just completely different teams.
Well, at this point, if the shoe fits, everything the Eagles are, even the defense, right? Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, they were pretty good against the Broncos up until the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden they're giving up yards. So yeah. All right. Speaking of, hey, that was a good segue.
Honestly, you couldn't have written it better yourself.
What jumps out at you most as we look at the defense by the numbers, both on the season average and against the Broncos and the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the thing that stands out the most is there's still a good defense, right? I mean, there's still, that negative EPA per play, allowing the offense basically every play, they're putting them in a worse position to score. Doesn't mean they don't score because they
Right.
did score, particularly in that Giants game. I mean, you look at the season average of minus 0.06, and then you look at 0.21
Right.
and for the Giants.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, Q got hurt. You could say all these things that, can kind of make up for it. But that's really inexcusable going
Right.
from, a negative EPA to a very positive EPA.
So I think if I'm going to put it all together, because the boxes of red are in the same categories for offense and defense for the same three against the Giants: EPA per play, pass, and rush. Right.
Mhm.
So that's just a complete total team failure then on both sides of the ball.
Complete total. It was an embarrassing performance to say the least. And in a week, maybe a 2-week stretch where, Philadelphia sports have been very tough,
Oh,
especially
dude.
if you're a Penn State fan like us. It's been a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was the icing on the cake. It was one of the worst performances by both sides of the ball that I've seen this team do in a long time.
I mean, this team had won 20 of 21 games before at the end of our last episode, right? And now they've lost 2 in a row. So yeah, they've definitely not played nearly close to expectation in that regard.
And
What
listen,
jumped out? Go ahead.
a loss I think is a good thing for this team because I think they needed some adversity and they needed to figure out their problems. But
Yeah.
the second loss, the carryover loss, it really does more damage than good at this point.
Yep.
I think having the extra days, the 10 days before playing should help. And maybe it'll push them in the right direction. But like
Mhm.
those 2 losses in a row can have a compounding effect, and I'm a little concerned about that.
I would tell you the first loss, you're right. It's going to happen. My favorite expression is when you win a bunch of games in a row, or even like a streak like 20 out of 21, the reality is you're getting closer and closer to your next loss because nobody goes undefeated for years and years. Nobody goes undefeated in a year, right?
Right.
It's only been done twice, and really only one team has done it all the way to the Super Bowl. So I understood when they lost it. I didn't think the sky was falling. I would say the significance of the Giants' loss is that not only did it really reveal some real cracks in the armor, but now when you're the Lions, now when you're the Tampa Bay Bucks, now when you're the Commanders, right? Everybody just feels a little bit better about who they are compared to the Eagles at the moment. And you let them, I don't want to say you let them back in the race because it's too early, but if they had won both of the games, I mean, you could be up 2 or 3 games on some of these teams.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it just made the race a little tighter, especially the way the Lions and the Bucks are playing.
But do you think it's time to press the panic button, the doomsday
No,
panic button? I don't think so either.
I wrote on Saturday on Philly Voice that there's certainly some issues that have to be resolved, and there's some of the things are not things that they can resolve just by better coaching or playing, and that's the offensive line health, right?
Yeah,
That might be a
100%.
problem for the rest of the year. Who knows? But I do think a lot of the issues they have elsewhere can be corrected through just time. I think Kevin Petullo needs. By the way, for the sake of this discussion, last year through 6 weeks, they had 4 games in which they scored like 20 or fewer points. They've actually scored more points this year through 6 games than they did last year. I think all the people saying Kevin Petullo's fired, got to go, he stinks, are revisionist historians because they're only remembering what they remember last, which is
Of
the Super
course.
Bowl and the NFC Championship.
Of course.
But everybody was supposed to be fired going into the bye week at 2-2, and even when they squeezed by the who was it, the Browns and then the Jaguars, nobody was happy with Kellen Moore in the offense either.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's always premature at this point, especially with a winning record, to try to fire the offensive or defensive coordinator at any point. But
Right.
yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's time to fire Petullo.
No, no one's going to get fired 6 weeks when you're
Of
4 weeks.
course, but I don't think it's justified to say that at this point.
Agreed. They got to work through some of these issues first.
One thing I want to highlight on this
Mm-hmm.
chart too is that my stat, the net time before pressure, for Jackson Dart. First off,
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that because it's staggering.
yeah, I just want to say first off, the time to pressure was they just were not getting there on the defensive line. They just were not fast, at least.
Right.
And then you look at the sack percent, you're like, but they got more. It was a higher sack percentage. And you look at the pressure percentage, it's not terribly far off, but it just was taking them a long time. And Jackson Dart was getting the ball out fast. I mean, one of the things about Jackson Dart is he has a quick release. Like that's a big part of the allure of him.
Right.
And when the rush takes too long to get there and you're facing a quarterback with a quick release, I mean, that's kind of the result you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think the time to pressure is a little bit misleading because he didn't throw the ball a lot, and there were a couple of times where he did do that thing like Hurts does around the pocket where he scrambled to the left and scrambled to the right and then found somebody at the last second, where it doesn't mean the Eagles weren't pressuring him. It just sort of felt like he was buying time by being slithery.
Even buying time and being slithery, I'd say no. I'd say that the pressure was taking a long time to develop for
I think that's fair
reason. Yeah, I really feel like even when you're being slithery, there is pressure. Like that would count as a pressure. And so they just weren't getting there in time, I would say.
Yeah, that is absolutely fair. And then sack percentage obviously works because he'll stay around there and he'll take the hit, but he also does he plays the game, especially this part of his career right now as a rookie, kind of like the way JalenHurts played it his first
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, the running game. What do you make of the run game numbers?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
stands out, right?
Yeah, it really does. You look at that run stuff percentage, and you're just like, they could not stop the run, and that's a lot of what the Giants did.
Yep, because that's the galling thing. All the Giants could do to even stay in this game, let alone win it, was run. They had no receivers. The only thing they could do was run the ball, and they did. And the Eagles knew it was coming. They even stacked the box at, as you have here, 28% of the time compared to 16% on their average. So they're way up in stacking the box, and yet they have this is the biggest differential probably of the year between run stuff again in a game versus your season average.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about 10% of season average and 3% against the Giants. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, is it also questionable that they also had a lighter box against this team that could only run compared to their season average?
So yes and no.
Okay.
You would say that it is questionable, but again, Fangio likes to, only rush 4, and that's what he wants to do.
Right.
And in an ideal situation, I mean, that works well. But in this particular circumstance, no, it didn't work well.
It did not. It did not. There was a lot of missed tackles too. It wasn't just like there was these wide open lanes to run through. All right. So real quick on quarterback spray charts. This is Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Had a much better second half. And again, the Eagles got to kick themselves. I mean, having a plus 1.0 CPOE is nothing beautiful, but at least it's positive.
Listen, he was making throws that an average quarterback should make. And you can't lose to that. You shouldn't, as an elite defense, you shouldn't lose to that. Now, do I fault the Eagles for, allowing only, 21 points or what? Yeah, it was 21-17, right?
Right.
So do I fault them for losing with 21 points? I think that maybe go more on the offense, honestly. I mean,
I agree.
But honestly, you don't want to lose to somebody that's making throws that an average quarterback could do.
Right. You're making a great point. If you give up 240 yards to a quarterback and just one touchdown in this day and age, that's fine. Like, that's not a great day for a quarterback, especially on 40 pass attempts.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So give us your notes on Nix's short game here.
Yeah, he was extremely effective in short passes, which is anything from 0 to 9 yards. He went 13 for 16, 113 yards, and unfortunately the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, that's right. Had some really nice connections to Courtland Sutton in the second half that I just thought was like sort of good on good.
Yeah, and 9 for 13 in play action, 99 yards in the touchdown. So
nice. And then Jackson Dart. I mean, these are kind of wacky looking numbers that really don't. Jackson Dart's passing stats are not going to tell a story here.
No, but I needed to put them there for consistency.
Of course.
One thing that is interesting is he was pretty much the same against or not against the blitz. The Eagles just were not effective in anything that they did defensively in this game.
Yep. In fact, by the way, the fact that they blitzed more than didn't blitz the Eagles shows you that Vic was out of his comfort zone there.
He very much was, 100%. And I'll just add, you can see that the stats are pretty much the same: 99 yards, 96 yards, 9 for 13, 8 for 12. One touchdown coming against the blitz. He also added 58 rushing yards on 13 attempts, including that rushing touchdown, 46 yards on QB scrambles. So
good stuff. All right. Quickly here, we've got, I like this, play sequencing and situational struggles. So explain this on this third down conversion stats you have here.
Yeah. So first off, I just want to say that I think this is a really good way to diagnose some of what's going wrong with the Eagles is looking at what's going on in third down, right? You look at their third down conversion rate offensively. They were 2 for 11 against Denver and 1 for 9 against the Giants. You look at that and say, that's terrible. Like, how did that happen? And I think we could go into the next chart and it'll say why. But let's just, for argument's sake, let's look at their whole season. Offensively, they're 26 for 75. That's a 34.7% clip. In 2024, they were 98 for 235, right? That's 41.7. That's a pretty significant fall.
Yes.
You look at their opponent at the same time, their opponents are the Denver was 5 for 16. They're close to a third. And the Giants were 11 for 16, almost at 70%, which is ridiculous. I mean, they could not have played that better, unfortunately. Like that is not replicable for the Giants. Like, you don't imagine 2 weeks from now, they're probably not going to be at 70% third down conversion rate.
Right.
You look at their opponents in 2025, it's 42.3%, which is significantly higher than last year, which was 35.5%.
Wow.
Any comment on that? Because I do have a theory on it, but I want to, if you have anything else you want to say about that.
I think football is it's like two things, right? It's turnovers we already talked about and situational stats. And when you see a team, the Eagles play, convert 70% on third down and the Eagles convert 11%, you're talking about 60% differential, say no more. I mean, that you don't need any more evidence of a full, again, it's not, some games are like, well, the offense didn't do it. Some games the defense didn't do it. This one, as we showed with the red blocks and EPA on both sides, it was just a total, complete team failure. And you can throw the special teams in there, even though that's not reflected in third down stats. And same thing with Denver, a little closer, but you're playing a playoff team. And so when you play a playoff team that's good, you have to be better situationally than them, at least in some areas, and they were not.
You ready for my theory?
Yes.
All right. So Eagles are not putting themselves in positions to be successful in their drives. Their sequencing is not great. They're not getting themselves in positions to move the sticks. And the best evidence for that is if you look at their situational third down conversion statistics. You look at third and short. They're 72.7% on the season. Anytime they're 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2. And you could say that's the push, right?
Yeah.
Like, that definitely adds to it. Their opponents are 17 for 26. That's 65.4%. Their opponents are at 26 third and shorts. They're at 11 on the season.
Oh, man, that is an amazing number, Sam.
And
that is an amazing
we keep
number.
looking. It cascades down, right? So you would expect, it to go a little bit worse each of the time. Like, you have more opportunities, but you look at it, the Eagles go from 11 opportunities in third and short to 23 in third and mid and 41 at third and long. And just before we even go into the numbers of how they convert it, you look at their opponent, 26 third and short, 23 third and medium. You look at 30 for third and long. They're almost uniform across the board. You look at the Eagles, they're in third and long almost every time. Like, that's great. That is ridiculous.
They are in third and long more than third and short and third and mid combined.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Wow.
So, and to me, like, this transcends third down statistic. This is why I love this little analysis, because it also talks about what did you do to get yourself in that position. They are not using first and second down effectively.
100%. This is something I wrote in that Philly Voice story about diagnosing their issues. And I love the word, because I think I used it too. Sequencing. What you do on first down needs to set up what you do on second down. What you need to do on second down should set up what you do on third down. When you can marry your run, your intermediate pass game, and your deep pass game and have it all flowing, it looks like what the Eagles looked like at times last year. We know their offense is never always looking like a masterpiece, but this year, really, it just looks like a toe stub followed by an ankle stub, or an ankle sprain. It really does.
That's a really good way to put it. I mean, listen, you look at, you can also caveat that a little bit, because sometimes they'll use third down to set themselves up to fourth down, but there's in third and long too much to even do that.
Wow. This is incredible. Good stuff, Sam.
Thank you. Yeah. And these pie charts are just breaking that down just so you can see visually what that looks like. Yeah. I mean, 54.7% third and long.
Yeah.
And then you look at their opponent, it's like, what is it, 38%? Yeah, 38% their opponent on third and long.
So they are in disadvantaged situations way more than their opponents, as opposed to last year.
Then
right?
this is last year. This pie chart, the next one is last year's.
Yeah.
They were 46% in third and long, and their
So their opponents had
was
had more third and longs than they did. Yeah.
Yeah. And you cannot consistently win football games if you're putting yourself in that position.
100%. Great stuff. That is
Thank
awesome. Really quick, we'll go to the lines, the offensive line. I think the pass protection has been better than run blocking. What anything jump out at you here?
Yeah. So again, I put the ranks for these, and I just need to I put a disclaimer there. They're actually going to be slightly better than what they are because they have an extra game and maybe even 2 games on some teams, the teams that have bye weeks and stuff. So especially pass blocking, those stats when they aggregate, I mean, they're going to be higher the more games you play, regardless of if you're the best team in the league or not.
Good point.
So take that with a grain of salt. But they've allowed 9 sacks, 6 hits, 46 hurries for a total of 61 pressures.
Remember that allowing 9 sacks is not always on the offensive line, and
correct.
I would say a bunch of them this year are not.
Correct. Which would even make that better. I mean, but look, they're 27th in the league in that. They're probably much better than 27th. My guess is that I bet they're probably closer to like 20.
Yeah, but to your point, it's more reflective. It is reflective of an offense that's behind the sticks, but it's, to me, that's also, I don't want to put it all on the O-line. There's been a lot of blitzing,
Correct.
and then sometimes it's on the running back, sometimes on Hurts. It could be on a tight end left in to pick up a certain guy. There's been a whole amalgamation of reasons why that those 9 sacks, and they're not, I don't think even half of them are on the offensive line.
Agreed. But I think the pressures are probably a better indicator in general. And perhaps I should have phrased this as just offensively.
Right.
It's not necessarily on the line because you're right. Those are really important points. But overall, as an offensive unit, as the entire offense, 61 pressures is 22nd in the league. They're probably closer to 16 when all else equal.
Right.
Which is just not what we've seen from this Eagles offensive line. So I think that's worth saying. And again, they were 12th last year. So
yes, I think center and left guard is hurting them in a lot of those pressures, certainly in the health issues there.
So that's just all I'd say about that.
Fair enough. And we'll just go right to the defensive line if we can.
Do you want to do the rushing?
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I just skipped right past it. Let's get both going on rushing stats.
Yep. So again, the subject to change because of the amount of games played is not equal, but they were 162 attempts, 572 yards, 3.5 yards per attempt, and 8 touchdowns. You look at these, they're second in attempts. They were first last year, and 17th in rushing yards. They were second last year.
That is amazing to be second in attempts and 17th in total yards. Yeah.
And it's worse when you look at the yards per attempt. They're 29th in the league.
Wow.
And that's a relative stat. So that's kind of static. Like that's just kind of what they are to the league.
Right.
Which is
those are the ones that are the most telltale. The touchdowns are high there because of all the 1-yarders that they have.
Sure. But yes, that's what I'd say about them. And then we can go right into the D-line run defense.
Yeah. I'm just like, imagine having, SaquonBarkley and going from 2nd to 17th in rushing yards and 5th to 29th in yards per attempt. Unbelievable.
Not ideal. And I think a lot of it is the health. And listen, for defense, we talk about pass rush all the time. So, and honestly, they've struggled with it. It's not great statistics at all.
I agree.
They're not finishing on stats, but I thought it'd be more interesting to look at run defense this time, just because we don't really talk about it that much because it's really hard to quantify, particularly because when we talk about individual players. So let's just talk about the run defense as a unit. And honestly, I think, again, it's not just the D-line. It's obviously the entire defensive unit. It's probably a better way to phrase it, like I said before, is like kind of how you mentioned, it should just be the defense in general. Let's just think of it from that context.
Sure.
They have the most rushing attempts against them in the league. And that is going to be skewed, again, because they have 1 or 2 more games on everyone else in the league at the point of recording right now.
Right.
But again, I mean, that's just showing that they're getting run on. They were 26th last year. You look at those rushing yards, 806. That's 31st in the league. They were 10th last year.
Yeah.
And you look at those yards per attempt, 4.7. There's 24th in the league, and they were 9th last year.
To me, that's the biggest. It could, because that's the average now, and we're not talking about inflated numbers by playing
Exactly.
an extra game. To go from 9th to 24th shows you they're looser there.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? From rushing touchdowns, they allowed 9 last year. They already allowed 8 this year.
Wow.
So,
Wow. That's real fascinating stuff.
Yep.
So, man, that is quite the story that we've told here through the numbers and the analytics. The stuff that really hits is what you were brought to light on third down, just the number of third and longs that they faced, and then their starting field position. I mean, if you're looking for two things that don't just jump out in the box score that you have just brought to light over the long haul, especially with the third downs that are really problematic, that is it right there. So, Sam, wonderful job. Appreciate it. Maybe when we do this again next week, we'll have a little bit more of a better outcome. We'll see. The Eagles have to play the Minnesota Vikings for that. And then so we'll have a show after that as well. All right. So that is going to do it for Inside the Data here on Inside the Birds. Again, big thanks to Sam Finkel and all the hard work that he's been doing. For Sam, I'm Geoff Mosher. Catch you all on the next one.